Hey guys, it's Tom Box, and today's ruling video, we're preventing some misplays that could happen in the future, and that is with Verte Anaconda, the very popular Predaplant monster that's gonna summon a lot of dragons in the future. Now, I'm saying that this card is going to see some misplays in the future, mainly because, first of all, it is a meta-relevant card. You can see them summoning a Dragon of the Red Eyes, which is a very powerful monster coming out in the future. And the second thing is, it has the effect to copy an effect of another spell card, specifically a fusion spell card that is a quick play or a normal spell card. Now, this isn't completely new. Diamond Dude kind of had a similar effect where you can use the effect of a spell card through its own effect, and then there's also the effect to copy traps through Junk Collector, Trap of Darkness, and Fake Feather. These are all things that kind of clone the effect of other cards. Let's go into the card text first, guys. So looking at the card itself, it is a Dark Link 2 plant monster. Recipe-wise, it only requires 2 effect monsters, and that's the only way to make this. You can target one face-up monster on the field. As the activation of the first ignition effect, it becomes dark until the end of this turn, which is, I guess, their first effect, sets it up for Super Poly. You can pay 2,000 life points and send one polymerization, normal or quick play spell, or fusion normal or quick play spell from your deck to the graveyard. That's the cost of the second ignition effect, which is probably the effect that you guys care about the most. This effect becomes that spell's effect when the card is activated. For the rest of the turn, after this card's effect resolves, you cannot special summon monsters, and that is if you use the effect of that. And you can only use the effect of Predaplant Verte Anaconda once per turn. To break it down, this card has basically 2 effects. The ability to turn one of your opponent's monsters into a dark monster, and the second one is to use the effect of a fusion spell in your deck by copying its effect as its own. Now, the line in question is this effect will become that spell's effect when the card is activated. The intent of that line is so that you know which effect that you're applying for Verte Anaconda, so it doesn't apply every single effect on that spell card. If it was like a Metal Force Fusion, does that mean you get to draw a card? No, it doesn't. You're only getting the part where you activate the card. So that's what it's supposed to mean, but some people overinterpret the card for their own advantage, and they kind of reroute and spew out some misplay or some misinterpretation for that line so that they gain some sort of advantage over the current game state. Well, what does that mean? Well, I'm going to explain it under the card text of Red Eyes Fusion and Super Polymerization, and I'm going to provide you visual cues of what it's supposed to look like. Let's start with Red Eyes Fusion. So let's go into the context of Red Eyes Fusion and why you can use Red Eyes Fusion. So in terms of the Red Eyes Fusion card text, it states, fusion summon one fusion monster that lists a Red Eyes monster as material from your extra deck using monsters from your hand, deck, or field as fusion material, and if you do it, its name becomes Red Eyes Black Dragon. You cannot normal or special summon other monsters that turn you activated this card. Seems pretty harsh. You can only activate one Red Eyes fusion per turn. Okay, let's break this one down. Now, you guys may have already heard of the summary of you guys are only using the effect of the card, you're not really activating the card, so most of the conditions you can basically ignore. Well, a lot of it has to do with the card text from Red Eyes Fusion. And looking at it right now, it states that you cannot normal summon or special summon other monsters that turn you activate this card. You're technically not activating this card. You're activating the effect, which is the stuff above. And you can only activate one Red Eyes Fusion per turn. Well, again, you're not activating Red Eyes Fusion. You're activating Verte Anaconda to use the effect of Red Eyes Fusion, not activating the spell itself. So that part can be completely worked in, as this effect becomes that spell's effect when the card is activated. But you're technically not activating the card. So yeah, there you have it. So you can completely just ignore most of the text. So here's Red Eyes Fusion, and here's the redacted version of what you'll really see when you activate it through a Verte Anaconda. Just for additional context, let's switch it with Instant Fusion. I know you guys won't use it for Instant Fusion because it's a pretty bad move, but say you already activated Instant Fusion at the beginning of your turn to summon up Thousand Eyes Restrict, but you have another target in your extra deck, and then you summon out Verte Anaconda, and then you activate the effect to send another copy of Instant Fusion. Is that legal? Well, the answer is yes, because you're not activating a second copy of Instant Fusion, you're just activating the effect of Instant Fusion through Verte Anaconda. So it's just Verte Anaconda copying that effect. So it doesn't really count as activating another copy of the card. So yeah, that technically would be allowed, although it would be a very bad move. And everything from Instant Fusion that lets the monster die and be destroyed and cannot attack, that is all still applied to that monster because that's part of the effect of Instant Fusion. So what about Super Poly? Yeah, it is a quick play poly spell after all, so it does count. Discard one card, that's the cost. So we can completely ignore the cost of that. And looking into the rest of the text, fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from either field as fusion material. That's it, it's very simple. What about neither player can activate cards or effect in response to this card's activation? Well, first of all, you're not activating the card of Super Poly, you're using the effect, so this does not count towards that. Therefore, that part is also redacted out if you're going to be using Verte Anaconda's effect to use Super Poly's effect. And with that said, that just means that yes, your opponent can respond to you. Yes, they can use infinite impermanence to turn off your effect so the effect doesn't even go through. They can negate and destroy you with Crystal Wing. All that is true. It's not that you're invincible. So where is all the miss and play happening? Where is the whole cheating thing happening? Well, let's get into that. I've already mentioned it throughout this video, but to recap, what are the areas where people might actually cheat against you? They're going to argue that if you send Red Eye's Fusion, they're going to say, hey, that's not a valid card you can send to the graveyard because it says on the card you cannot normal or special summon during the turn you activated this card. Well, the thing is, you're not activating the card, so you can argue back against them, telling them, hey, I'm not activating the card, I'm only using the effect of the card. The physical card has not been activated, and that is what it is referring to. That's argument number one that you're likely going to have to deal with, so there's your answer to reply to them, and if anything, you can send them to this video as well, so there's that. Second one is Super Poly. Now this is coming from the guy that is, well, you're dealing with someone Super Polying your stuff. So they summon out Verte Anaconda and they're like, oh, I'm gonna send Super Poly's effect to go into a Starving Venom to eat up your board. Okay, that's cool. I'm gonna respond with a card and they're gonna say, oh, it's Super Poly. It states it's gonna use its effect, the effect of Super Poly. Well, it does not allow you to respond to my card. They're gonna cut it short like that because that argument works for them, but that is a bad argument as the effect entirely, this is why reading card is so important, neither player can activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation. The thing is, they're not activating the card of Super Poly, they're only using its effect. Therefore, you can use Infinite Impermanence, Forbidden Chalice, you can use whatever the thing you need to negate it, and it will be negated, and that will be the end of that card. So, yeah, there's that. I guess they don't even get to send the materials to the graveyard either because, of course, Fusion Summon, there's no cost per se for the summon. There's no material that's sent right away. The spell must resolve, the effect must resolve to get that sending. So that's the second argument that you're likely going to see. And I'm making sure you guys don't get screwed over by quote-unquote spell speed for effects because it's not a thing. It's just that your opponent cannot respond, and that's a more proper term for that. Now, as for other things that could occur during this misplay is people sending illegal targets. Remember, it says polymerization spell and quick play spell and fusion spell and quick play spell, though that has quotes in front of it, which means it's the name of the card must contain poly or must contain fusion. It cannot be stuff like invocation, dragon's mirror. Those things don't carry the name fusion or poly. They do not count, so you cannot send those to get those effects. And I don't think you can even send Book of the Law either, so yeah, there's that. But typically you wouldn't even bother with that. But I'm sure there's other fusion spells that you would consider to throw in there, but that are technically not named as a fusion spell. So there's that as another angle. For clarity's sake, do not apply this ruling to trap-based copying. Trap of Darkness and Junk Collector, those two cards specifically need the activation requirement to be met. In other words, though you don't pay cost, you still have to meet the activation requirement to do so. It's great to use it with like the viruses because they only have a cost and they don't really have much more of any more requirements. But in terms of things that require you to have specific stuff on the field, specific timing, specific conditions, all of those need to be met specifically to deal with those situations, which is why trap effect copying versus spell effect copying, they're quite different. Okay, that's all I got for this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed this segment, hit that thumbs up button. If you guys want to see more stuff from MST.TV, including myself, and perhaps more ruling stuff, hit that subscribe, ding the notification bell so that you can be up to date. I'll see you guys in a couple months anyway when you guys argue with, well, your fellow players about this particular ruling when the set comes out. I believe the Anaconda and everything comes out in March in Dual Overload, and that's going to be an amazing set, so good luck to your polls, I guess. And that's all I got for this one, so I'll see you guys in the next one, and help support this channel by checking out some of the links down in the description below.